tonight, the monster meltdown. The software flaw felt around the world.
We're deeply sorry for the impact that we've caused.
Demanding answers for a massive disruption.
What went wrong? What signs were missed?
Joe Biden on the brink.
He's in this to win this. He can do this.
The big divide among Democrats. Plus, don't do it yourself.
Today, we are going to be making homemade organic sunscreen.
The new health warning about a TikTok trend. And the 61-year-old Olympian.
When I see the number 61 on a piece of paper, I don't think that's me.
A life lesson about making your dream come true.
CTV National News with Heather Butts. Reporting tonight, Mirella Fernandez.
Good evening. It is the glitch that crashed computers around the world. A software update sent out by a company called CrowdStrike stopped travelers from flying, doctors from operating, traders from trading. The outage led to gargantuan lineups at border crossings like this one in Mexico. And many of the massive monitors that light up New York's Times Square simply went dark. Tonight, some have recovered from a day of chaos, others still trying to get back on track. CTV's Geneviève Beauchemin with the Canadian consequences.
Just 1 week linked threw much of the world into online chaos. Porter Airlines rebooted operations by mid-afternoon, but that was after grounding its fleet for hours, putting passengers on hold in many airports right across the country.
The gentleman at Porter told me to go take Via Rail back to Toronto.
They got chairs, they were handing out water and donuts earlier. Everybody's frustrated.
It was a cascade of scrambled flight plans that caused turbulence right around the world.
I am so upset right now.
Those traveling by land didn't fare much better. They faced long lineups at many Canada-U.S. border crossings. But the outage also knocked other critical systems offline. Several hospitals put workarounds in place. In Toronto, officials warned that while clinical activities continued, patients could face delays and cancellations of their medical appointments. And several banks worldwide struggled to keep up operations. Ken Decker in Ottawa wanted cash to buy a lawnmower.
They just told us in the line that we weren't able to withdraw cash because of the outage.
And the local Starbucks could only accept cash or its own brand card. Several other businesses worldwide shut down, unable to operate the old-fashioned way. It was a bad file, not a cyber attack, seemingly to blame for the massive disruption. The cybersecurity firm CrowdStrike deployed a faulty update to computers, crashing the system. By the time it sent out a fix, a lot of damage had been done. Microsoft's so-called blue screen of death, synonymous for so long with IT trouble, was everywhere. This outage highlighted the pitfalls of our interconnected world.
I was expecting a little bit of chaos, but not this much, so it's pretty astounding.
And some travelers have been told that getting things fully back on track could take days. Mirella.
What a chaotic day. Okay, John. So how could a bit of bad code take down systems from Bombay to Bangkok? CTV's Kamal Karamali tonight with a look at the cybersecurity company meant to protect, but instead exposed its customers to that fatal flaw. And many are asking, why wasn't there a plan B?
CrowdStrike, perhaps not a household name, but for some of the biggest companies in the world, it's the last line of defense against cyber hackers.
They are certainly a global powerhouse. It's an $83 billion valued company.
So when that last line fell, so did confidence in the company. CrowdStrike's stock dropping sharply today.
Today's events will result in large part inconveniences for many, billions of dollars in costs. We're talking delayed payrolls, flights, the disruptions that will go on for days.
The company's cybersecurity software used by hundreds of millions of personal computers and numerous Fortune 500 companies, including major global banks, healthcare, and energy conglomerates, even leading international hacking investigations for the U.S. government. Today, an update causing systems to crash. Questions now on why a faulty piece of software was released.
You are supposed to test this in a test environment or a sandbox so that you can break it, you can find its weaknesses.
And why a backup plan in case the update failed wasn't in place.
You are supposed to have other fail-safes built in, sort of backups of backups and workarounds.
With few answers from the company's CEO.
When you look at software, it is a very complex world, and there's a lot of interactions, and always staying ahead of the adversary is certainly a tall task.
The widespread chaos highlighting how much multi-billion-dollar companies depend on a small number of software systems like Microsoft and CrowdStrike.
We used to have a lot of small companies making different tools, but they've been gradually picked up and acquired and consolidated down.
The company's CEO also says he's sorry for the impact this has caused, highlighting that this is not a cyber attack, but instead a content update. Marilla.
All right, Camel, thanks for that. And for more extensive coverage on the outage and how it could affect you, visit our website at ctvnews.ca. There is a deal to get LCBO stores back up and running, but it's on hold. The union representing workers says the strike will continue because the government won't sign a return to work protocol.
This is not about the money. This is about how to get these workers and their 9,000 colleagues back to work safely.
The Liquor Control Board of Ontario says the protocol has significant new monetary demands that should have been dealt with at the bargaining table. The LCBO says it will file a complaint about an unfair labor practice. No complaints from the man who has been named the new Minister of Labour. Steve McKinnon got the job after Seamus O'Regan resigned from cabinet on Thursday. CTV's Jeremy Charon on the switch and what came of a cabinet meeting today.
Lovely day.
A new role for a familiar face.
I, Stephen Garrett McKinnon.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau today named Steve McKinnon his new Labour and Seniors Minister. The Gatineau MP takes over for outgoing Minister Seamus O'Regan, who announced yesterday he won't run for re-election. McKinnon had been filling in for Karina Gold as government House Leader. She's expected to return from parental leave this month. He takes on the new portfolio amid growing challenges for the slumping Liberal minority government.
I detect a resolve among all of my caucus and cabinet colleagues to continue doing the work as we enter what will undoubtedly be a productive year, I think, a challenging year.
Still, speculation of a larger summer cabinet shuffle looms as Trudeau convened his cabinet for a virtual meeting today, the first of its kind since last month's shocking Toronto by-election loss.
We are also seen at times as being responsible for those challenges in and around affordability, and we're also responsible to make life a little more affordable for Canadians.
And so while today's move within cabinet was minimal, the departure of a high-profile minister and longtime friend of the Prime Minister is sparking talk about what could become a growing trend.
Right now, Justin Trudeau's political coattails are pretty short. And if for any federal Liberal MP, they're going to have to run on their own record and on their own reputation.
Now, the Prime Minister is set to spend the next 2 weeks on summer vacation, but it's expected when he returns, the Liberals will be trying to figure out how to achieve a much-needed political refresh. Marella?
Jeremy is in Ottawa. Some good news for Canadian families receiving child benefit checks. They can expect a little extra. This year, eligible parents will receive about $350 more than last year. That's a 4.7% increase. The payments are tied to inflation and have been adjusted to account for the rising cost of living. It's the pressure that is rising on Joe Biden. Even more Democrats are calling on him to quit the presidential race. But the U.S. president isn't giving in. In fact, he's quashing rumors that he's ready to step aside. Here's CTV's Mike LeCouture.
The list of Democrats calling for U.S. President Joe Biden to bow out of the race is growing. 13 more congressional members are saying it's time for him to go.
The president is not capable of delivering the message in an effective way.
The worry is Biden could lose the White House, but also drag down Democrats in Congress. And there are reports Biden's family is discussing a possible exit plan for the president.
I'm very concerned that the data does not show a path to victory with President Biden.
There are other reports from those close to Biden saying he is hurt and he is angry by the Democratic pressure. His campaign chair insists the president isn't leaving the race.
We know we have work to do, but we have work to do that is very clear and a path forward. We have multiple pathways to victory.
There are folks still saying he is not strong enough or capable enough to be our next president. I disagree.
Now, Democrats have just 1 month until their convention to nominate a candidate, and some strategists believe it's still possible to change course.
It wouldn't surprise me that sometime this weekend or early next week, the president announces he is stepping aside for Vice President Kamala Harris.
Biden continues to isolate in Delaware, where his symptoms of COVID-19 are improving. And in a new defiant statement today, the president says he looks forward to being on the campaign trail next week. Morella?
All right, Mike, thanks for that. The International Court of Justice has ruled Israel's occupation of Palestinian territories is illegal.
Israel's maintenance of their presence is contrary to Article 49 of the Fourth Geneva Convention.
The court is calling for Israel to clear out settlements in the West Bank and East Jerusalem. The ruling isn't legally binding, and Israel's prime minister says Jewish people cannot be occupiers in their homeland. An ultralight plane has crashed in a cornfield in New Brunswick. The pilot was killed.
And then all of a sudden just nose down straight into the ground. There was a loud crash.
Fire officials say there were no other casualties. The Transportation Safety Board is investigating. The death of a woman in Newfoundland is officially being investigated as a homicide. Her body was found in St. John's earlier this week.
The individual was located inside of a suitcase.
The 33-year-old victim is Iranian and had only arrived in Canada in May. The suspect is her 34-year-old husband, who was found dead at his home on Monday night. Police are not releasing their names. And some sad news from the Calgary Zoo tonight. One of its polar bears has suddenly died. The two brother bears only arrived 8 months ago. Baffin and Siku were fighting today, as they typically do, in their pool. But Baffin went under and didn't come back up.
Considering that he's, everything's appeared outwardly normal before, it's very, very shocking, just like any sudden death within a family.
Baffin was 7 years old. Polar bears typically live to about 25. His body has been sent for examination. Coming up, a warning about mixing it up at home.
It's crazy town, it's unnecessary, it's extra work, and frankly, it's unsafe.
The health concerns about homemade sunscreen. There's a warning tonight from public health officials about making sunscreen at home. It's a new TikTok trend. Some say the homemade version is better for the body, but officials say it's likely those DIY recipes won't protect you. CTV's Heather Wright reports.
We all burn pretty easily, so we went with something with a little bit more SPF.
This TikTok video has been viewed more than 20 million times. It's one of many videos showing how to make homemade sunscreen using ingredients like zinc, cocoa butter, and beeswax.
50 grams of avocado oil.
These DIY videos have become so popular, it's prompted a warning from Health Canada. Do not use homemade sunscreen, the Public Health Agency said in a statement, saying these recipes present risks as they are unlikely to be effective at protecting you from the sun's harmful UV rays. Making sunscreen at home is particularly challenging as formulas for an effective lotion are precise, and experts say there is also no testing involved, warning homemade sunscreen offers weak and spotty protection, if any at all.
You can't just put some zinc in a pot and say that it's going to be as effective as, your run-of-the-mill commercial sunscreen.
Dr. Renee Beach is a dermatologist and says every sunscreen in Canada has been tested to meet safety guidelines.
We know that sunscreens are vetted. We know that their ingredients are absorbed into the skin, not deep into our bloodstream or changing our organs or anything that we may see as misinformation online.
And experts say sunscreen is really just one piece of the sun protection puzzle. They also recommend wearing hats, long clothing, and staying inside when the UV index is particularly high. Heather Wright, CTV News, Toronto.
We want to share another warning tonight. This one comes from a Quebec father who lost his daughter 2 years ago. She went abroad for plastic surgery. There were complications following the procedure, and Florence McConnell died. She was only 26. CTV's Maria Saru has more.
Every photo in this family album is a painful reminder of the daughter Brian McConnell lost.
Lots of memories.
His grief is still as palpable as it was 2 years ago when she died.
I wanted people to grab me and I could grab them and share that pain.
Florence McConnell was just 26 when she underwent liposuction in Morocco, partly because it was more affordable. She was energetic, well-traveled, and accomplished. But growing up, Florence was bullied for her weight.
I like this picture.
And the social media pressures of having the perfect body caught up with her.
The world was in front of her, but it wasn't enough for her. She needed to be more.
After the surgery, her parents say the clinic reassured them that everything was fine, but it wasn't. And by the time doctors took action, it was too late, McConnell says.
All her organs were shutting down. She was in pure pain, and you don't want that for your kid.
Florence's family says they had no reason to doubt the clinic's competence, but McConnell says they got access to the autopsy report in Morocco, and it indicated his daughter's liver and kidney were perforated during the surgery. The family is taking legal action. We reached out to the clinic, but have yet to hear back. A Montreal plastic surgeon says it's tempting to go abroad for procedures, but sometimes it's not worth the risk.
You don't really know what are the standards in terms of operating the OR, the facilities. Is the sterilization process as strict as it is here?
McConnell says warning other parents about the potential dangers by sharing his daughter's story provides purpose. Maria Saru, CTV News.
Straight ahead, a delayed debut.
Never giving up if it's possible.
Going into her first Olympics at 61. A woman originally from Sudbury, Ontario, will be Canada's oldest Olympian at the Paris Games. Jill Irving is 61 and making her debut at an equestrian event. I caught up with her in England and asked her about going to Paris.
I'm so excited. My whole entire life as a child, I wanted to be an Olympian. And here I'm going. I'm living the dream. And when I see the number 61 on a piece of paper, I don't think that's me. I equate myself with my teammates that are younger than my children.
Tell me a little bit more about the horse. Tell me about the event.
I'm a dressage rider. It's the horse is supposed to show harmony, balance, obedience, and flexibility. And, it's a series of moves that we do in front of judges, a panel of 7 judges.
What advantages, very quickly, do you think you gain with your age, even though you don't feel your age?
Patience, flexibility, resilience, organizational skills, and gratitude. Each day at a time. That's the way I look at it. And I think the gratitude to be there, and perspective.
We wish her the best of luck. A Canadian band has run out of patience after waiting months to get work visas for the U.S. The musicians now have to cancel their concerts because the paperwork just never arrived. CTV Sarah Plowman reports.
The stage was set. Tickets sold for 6 shows in New England. But Josh Bravener and the hypochondriacs had to cancel. The temporary work visas they needed never came.
I just got an email yesterday saying it was still 5.5 month wait before they would even, look at them.
A week-long U.S. tour took months to plan. They printed shirts, stickers, even bought a van.
Money goes into planning a tour and time off.
It's all this work we did kind of just thrown out.
The band applied for their visas months in advance, just like last year. But backlogs at U.S. Immigration Service centers mean delays. Stephen Lewis applied for his band's U.S. visa in April. Still nothing. The costs of the U.S. visa recently shot up. Now it's the queue.
The increase in the fee was supposed to help make all of this smoother and quicker, and clearly it hasn't.
It's not just Canadian musicians dealing with the backlog, it's all international athletes, artists, entertainers. Some may pay nearly $3,000 US to speed up the process, but that's not an option for everyone. A US immigration lawyer tells me all cases go to Texas. Where the file goes from there may be the problem.
Your case was filed to or transferred to Vermont right now, you'd see a 2-month wait, where if it's transferred to California, you're seeing a 5-month wait.
Groups representing musicians and entertainers are lobbying U.S. officials to solve the issue.
Conservatively, approximately 50% of our bans may be subject to longer delays.
Musicians point out that Americans performing in Canada only need a letter of invitation to come, not a visa.
I mean, I think it just needs to be more accessible for musicians to go and play.
So a stage a few hours drive away isn't unreachable. Sarah Plowman, CTV News, Fredericton.
After the break, the right place at the right time.
I've basically died 3 times, so I've got 6 lives left.
A doctor saves a life in an ice cream parlor. A craving for a sweet treat has saved a man's life. Lawrence Cohen went into cardiac arrest at an ice cream shop in Montreal. Now, just as he collapsed, a doctor walked in and sprung into action. CTV's Angela McKenzie reports.
It's a connection these two will have for a lifetime.
Oh, she's like a guardian angel. Not for her, I wouldn't be here now.
Lawrence Cohen doesn't remember the day he met Dr. Alana Bank almost 2 years ago, but she certainly does. An emergency physician at the Montreal Children's Hospital, Bank made a last-minute decision one day to grab a cone at the Dippery ice cream shop on Monkland. That's when one of the owners ran outside in a panic.
She opened the door and she's like, oh my God, you're medical. Somebody just collapsed.
That somebody was Cohen. The audio-video technician was there on a job when he went into cardiac arrest. Bank sprang into action and performed CPR for 7 minutes until paramedics arrived.
It's really just push hard, push fast. And that's what I did.
He was clinically dead for 12 minutes, intubated for 8 days, and lived. For people who suffer cardiac arrest outside a hospital, the chance of surviving is slim.
I think I jumped out of my seat. I said, what? And they're like, yeah, he's alive and the son wants to talk to you.
Even Cohen's neurologist was surprised.
He said, you're 1% of people who survive this. He says, you shouldn't be alive. You should be dead. So that's a wake-up call.
Lawrence, how are you? Hey, Lawrence, how are you?
A wake-up call, too, for the Dippery's owners.
I felt quite helpless because I didn't know any life-saving measures.
And that's what Cohen and Bank hope people will take away from this story. You don't have to be a doctor to learn CPR.
It's about having the frame of mind of, if something like this is to happen, I'm going to be open to doing the best I can.
Years before, Cohen had a heart attack and underwent a quintuple bypass.
I've basically died 3 times, so I've got 6 lives left.
Angela McKenzie, CTV News, Montreal.
Lucky man. That's a wrap on the day. Thanks for sharing your time with us. For all of us here at CTV National News, good night.
CTV National News, Canada's #1 newscast.